What is going on YouTube? It's your boy Spanko, and today I'm excited because I am bringing you a brand new Trickstar deck profile for the August 2021 format. Now this is something that I haven't seen in a long time. People kind of put Trickstar to the side because Light Stage is still at 1, which by the way, Light Stage needs to come back to 3 ASAP Rocky, but because it's still at 1, I feel like people forgot about it and I just wanted to bring it back to people's attention. So if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh content. Guys, we're almost at 5,000. We're on that push to 5,000 now. Let's make it happen as soon as we can. I really appreciate everyone who's subscribing and joining the Spanko squad. Last thing I want to say before we get into the video is if you guys have any suggestions or any other ideas, let me know in the comment section down below. I love to hear what you guys have to say because that's how growth happens. I always wanted Spanko to be a community more than just an individual, so that's why I love when you guys give me your opinion, and then that's how we make decks the best they can possibly be. But again, that's all I gotta say. I hope you enjoyed the video. Okay, so onto the deck profile here. It's actually very different the way I decided to build Trickstar. And shout out to Dark Arm Duelist because I kind of took some of the inspiration from him, changed it up a little bit, but I think this is the way to play Trickstar if you wanted to in today's format. I don't like the Dragoon package, and I'm just going to explain that from now. The reason I don't like it is the Dragoon discard, honestly, is just too much in this deck. Like, there's so many times where I have traps. It's just a weird combination of traps plus Dragoons where I don't have the discard outlets for Dragoons, and Dragoons just kind of sits there for me. And I was like, you know what? I would rather make a more consistent deck than a deck that just makes Dragoons and hopes that it's enough to win, you know? So that's kind of where I am at with this deck, and that's kind of what my logic behind the ratios and the reasoning for this deck is. And we'll get right into it. So obviously, we're starting off with 3 Candina, 3 Licorice, 3 Corobane. I was playing 2 originally, but I actually upped to 3, and I'll show you guys why in a little bit. But it's actually very important to play 3 now. And then 1 Lilybell, of course, if you search up Candina, it's a pretty special summon. So that's it for the Trickstar lineup. I think it's a standard Trickstar lineup. Again, the only one that I think is a little bit not standard is 3 Corobane over 2 Corobane. And let me tell you guys why I like to play 3. So I actually like to open this card. Opening this card with Candina is really, really good. Because a lot of the times, if you can get yourself into a Licorice, whether you have to search it or you just open the Licorice, what ends up happening is I don't want to bounce my Candina. I really want to bounce the Corobane after I summon it. So let me just give you guys a quick situation. I have Candina, I have Corobane in hand, and I have Licorice in hand, let's just say. Okay, I know some Candina search Reincarnation, or if I don't have a Licorice, I'll search the Licorice. And then what I'll do from there is I'll special the Corobane from hand, and then bounce the Corobane with Licorice, just so that now I have the Corobane back in my hand, so it kind of saves me resources in that sense. And then I get burns from both Candina, and I get burns from Licorice as well. Now, obviously, if your opponent has like a hand trap, something like a Veiler, or something like an Imperm, then you're gonna wanna Licorice the Candina back just so that Candina can resolve. So obviously that interaction is still there. But the thing that I really like about Corobane is that now it makes it so that you add Corobane back to your hand after you Licorice bounce it. You have 2 ways to now burn your opponent, and you still have the Corobane, which still has the honest effect. So that's why I kind of like doing those kind of boards. Very simplistic boards, but backed up with back row and traps, it's actually very, very powerful. So that's really why I wanted to explain the Trickstar engine. I know it's kind of not complicated, I guess, per se. It's kind of simplistic, but also like you have to play it in weird ways now, ways that you didn't have to play it before, right? And then we're just gonna go off to the hand traps here, and we're playing triple Ash Blossom as well as triple Droll. Droll is just obviously important in this deck with Reincarnation. It's still one of the most broken combos in the game. Now, you're not gonna get this combo off all the time, but when you do, it's just insane. And then obviously Ash is just very generic. Then we are playing 1 Scythe, Artifact Scythe, and that's important because with the Artifact Sanctums, this actually shuts down so many decks, and you could just completely win a game and just completely like steamroll your opponent if you resolve a Sanctum early. So that's why I like to play the Scythe. Then we are playing triple Extravagance. Of course, you don't need your extra deck too much in this deck. I have a little tech, which I'm actually just going to get into now, which is the 1 Scapegoat. I think this card is phenomenal in Trickstar. If you guys used to play Trickstar a long time ago, you guys know how good and how important Scapegoat is. And the reason I say that is because the thing with Scapegoat I really, really love is the fact that once you activate this card, and if this card resolves, you're going to be beating your opponent. And why I say that, it's because you're going to be doing a lot of burn damage with your Trickstar monsters originally, and then on top of that, these cards kind of have an issue where they're not big enough to OTK your opponent. They have a hard time OTKing your opponent just because they're just such small monsters in themselves. So making the Scapegoat means that you can make a Boral Sword or an Axis Code right away and then try to OTK your opponent from there. That's what I love about Scapegoat. You activate this on your opponent's end phase, you're pretty much always going to be winning the game. And then obviously we're playing 1 Light Stage. Now, I do like the burn engine, and I like to burn a lot in this deck because, again, these are smaller monsters, so you want to do as much burn damage as possible early and then just try to go for the kill later, right? So for that, we're playing triple Dark Room of Nightmare. Now this card is really good. Again, with the board that I was mentioning earlier, when you have both Candina and Licorice on the board, you're going to be doing extra burn damage each time like your opponent draws a card, or if your opponent activates a spell or trap, they're going to be doing burn damage, and Dark Room of Nightmare just does more burn damage on top of that. Now, Dark Room of Nightmare does stack with all of these, so if you activate multiple Dark Rooms of Nightmares, they will stack with the Trickstar monsters. However, they will not stack with each other. So it's not like you're gonna Dark Room of Nightmare, one activates, gonna activate the next one, this one activates, gonna activate the next one. It's not like that, right? But they do stack. If you have multiple of these, they do stack with the Trickstar monsters. Then moving on to the traps, we are playing a ton of trap cards. So we're playing triple Trap Trick, just gets us to any of the traps that we need. We got triple Imperm. Of course, Imperm is very important in this deck, just it being one of the best hand traps in the game. Also, it being searchable with Trap Trick is just so crazy. And then you got double Sanctum. The only reason I'm playing 2, I didn't want to play 3 because you can just search it off the Trap Trick, so I didn't want to max out on the triple Sanctum. I think 2 is just enough. Triple Reincarnation, of course, Reincarnation is insane in this deck. Double Torrential. Now, Torrential is actually really, really good in this deck. Now, again, you don't want to end up on 2 crazy boards. So, again, like if you're ending on a Candina or a Licorice, you don't mind losing those. But the thing is with Torrential is Torrential can be completely blowout against a lot of decks. And so I just like this card because I think it's a card that people play into a lot nowadays. People don't see it coming, and it could just help you win the game, right? So that's why Torrential is really good. And then I also like to play Double Compulsory Evacuation Device. Now, a card that's not in here that I really wanted to play, I just don't think that good this format, is Ice Dragon's Prison. So Ice Dragon Prison is an insane card. I think that card is broken, but just in this format, it's not the strongest, and that's why I'm not playing this. However, if you guys were to look back at this build, so if anyone's looking back at this build in maybe like 5, 6, 7 months when the format has changed, yeah, you can put in IDP if IDP is good in that format. Just replace Torrential or replace Compulse, whatever you guys want to replace. But IDP is just such a broken card. I just wanted to explain to you guys that if you guys ever think that that card becomes back in the meta or it becomes really important in the format, you just sub one of these traps for IDP and boom, you're good to go. Then for the extra deck, of course, we're playing Extrab, so we're just going to be playing multiples of each card that we kind of really need. We don't need the extra deck too much, but we're just playing multiples of everything like Link Karibo. Again, this is all for Scapegoat, right? Because once you Scapegoat, the play is to go into like Link Spider, Link Karibo, Phoenix, and then bring back the Link Karibo, and then now you have a Link 4. So that's why you're playing double Link Karibo, double Link Spider, double Phoenix, double Cerberus. You're playing 1 Unicorn. I just decided to put this in as my 15th card. If you don't want to play the Unicorn, honestly, you could play like a 3rd Link Karibo or a 3rd Link Spider. It is what it is. I just put this in my 15th. Then I put 1 Boral Sword and 1 Access Code. Now, I just wanted to show you that you guys could play 2 Boral Sword or 2 Access Code. The reason I just put 1 and 1 is to show you guys that you guys could play either or. I personally I think Access Code a little bit more, especially with the Scapegoat, because with the Scapegoat, what ends up happening is you have Link monsters now that'll be in your graveyard to use the Access Code effect, especially because like Link Spider's an Earth, Link Karibo's a Dark, and then Nightmare Phoenix is a fire. With the Phoenix, Link Spider, and Link Karibo, you have 3 pops essentially on your opponent's turn with Access Code Talker. And then because you're going to be using Phoenix or Cerberus for this, you're always going to get plus 2000 attack, right? So that's why I think I like Access Code a little bit more, but I know Access Code is kind of expensive, and Boral Sword you can get at a cheaper option. So you guys can play 2 Boral Sword or 2 Access Code. Again, just playing 1 on 1 to show you guys that these are the 2 that you would be playing. And again, because you're playing Extravagance, you do want to play 2 of these. You don't want to just play 1 because it's pretty much your OTK condition, right? And then we're playing double Holy Angel. Holy Angel is just the best Trickstar Link monster in my opinion. This is the one that you go into the most if you ever do go into it. And then lastly, we are playing 1 Durandal and 1 Pleiades. So the reason I actually like Durandal is because Corabane's a level 5 light, but so is Scythe. And the thing is, Durandal essentially acts as another reincarnation for you. And what I mean by that is if you have the Droll Unlock in your hand, you can Durandal to force your opponent to draw, and then you can Droll them there, right? So if you don't have access to Reincarnation, you can make Durandal, and then it's pretty much kind of like the same combo with Durandal and Droll. So that's why I just wanted to play the 1 Durandal. It doesn't come up too often, but when it does, it's really powerful. And then 1 Pleiades. Pleiades is one of those cards that, again, if you've already used your Scythe, if you already used your Corbane, you don't have access to Reincarnation, making a Pleiades is very powerful because now it's just a quick bounce that you have on your opponent's turn as well, right? So it's another card that you can go into. It's not something you have to go into. And again, this entire extra deck, you don't really go into that often. The thing you go into the most, again, is just these Link monsters here with the Scapegoat, and then into your Access Code or your Boral Sword. Sometimes you'll go into the Holy Angel, and sometimes you'll go into Durandal and Pleiades. Like that's really, it's not like it's a toolbox. It's really just a toolbox extra deck. So actually, I don't do these in my videos too often, but I wanted to show you guys a quick test hand. So I just went in, pressed test hand, and this is kind of what we saw. So let's see what the best board we can make with this is. So we're going to start off actually by probably activating the Extravagance here, and we're going to go obviously for 6. And hopefully we don't banish multiples of anything. We draw 2. Okay, so we didn't draw that good, to be honest with you, but it is extra cards in our hand. Let's see what we banish. We banished double Holy Angel. Yeah, so we didn't banish anything too crazy here. We're good to go. We're going to start off by normal summoning the Candina. It kind of sucks because if we had a Licorice in this situation, it'd be actually better because this way this is more protected from like Veiler or Imperm, but it's perfectly fine. You can just Candina here. Honestly, you could search Reincarnation, but I wouldn't. I would just go for the Licorice here because you have the Trap Tricks anyway. So yeah, we could go for the Licorice here, or we could go for Light Sage and then Light Sage search Licorice. That's probably the play. Getting Light Sage out of our deck is pretty powerful. So we can Light Sage here, and then we're going to activate the Light Sage to search the Licorice. I wouldn't go for the Corbane. The only reason I wouldn't go for the Corbane here is because it's kind of like, what are you going to do with the Corbane? So I'll just Licorice, bounce the Candina back so we have a Candina for next turn, and then we can actually just set 4 here. So this is actually low-key very powerful, and you guys might be wondering, like, it looks so basic, but now your opponent has to play through a Trap Trick. Now obviously you're only going to be using 1 Trap Trick, but you're going to be playing through either a Reincarnation or, like, you already have a Torrential and Imperm, so you could actually Trap Trick for Sanctum here, and then now you have a Scythe to play. So now you have Sanctum, which is going to completely lock them out of their extra deck. You have Torrential, and you're not too worried about Torrential, again, because you only have 1 monster on the board, and you have Candinas for next turn, so Torrential is pretty safe for you to activate, and you have an Imperm, 1 negate with Imperm. I guess Torrential is another disruption, but again, Torrential could be multiple monsters, which would be really strong. And then Trap Trick, which pretty much locks them out of their extra deck. I'm not trying to say that this is going to be the best deck of the format, but I'm just trying to show you guys that this deck in this way is still very, very playable. So here's just another quick test hand that I wanted to show you guys. I don't really do test hands too often, but I really wanted to show you guys that this deck is very viable. And like, these are the kind of boards that I'm talking about. So here we're going to go Candina, normal summon the Candina, and you're going to activate the Candina effect. Again, you're safe from Imperm or Effect Veiler because you do have the Licorice to protect it if needed. Now in this case, we're just going to assume that there's no Effect Veiler, no Imperm. So here, honestly, I would just search the Reincarnation. I don't think you need to search anything else. I would just maybe search the Reincarnation here. You could maybe go for like another Licorice, but I don't know. I think the Reincarnation is just a safe bet. Then I'm actually going to special summon the Corbane here, and this is what I mean. So you're going to special summon the Corbane, and then you can just Licorice bounce the Corbane back to your hand. And this is what I really like about this, is because it always has, like, it always keeps that card advantage in your hand, right? Then you're just going to set Torrential, set Reincarnation, and set Imperm. So now you have 1 disruption with Imperm, another, I guess you could say, disruption with Reincarnation. It's not really disruption, but if your opponent searches to something that's really important in their combo, you can end up reincarnating them. If you think about Drytron, right? They search a Ben 10, or they get, you know, a Herald's in their hand or whatever. You can reincarnation them at that point. You don't have to shotgun Reincarnation, right? You can use it when your opponent has their combo pieces in their hand. And then you have the Torrential, of course, for another form of disruption. You also have Candina burning every time they use a spell or trap card. You also have Licorice every time they draw, it's going to burn, and that's really good with Reincarnation, of course. And then you have Corbane, where even if they wanted to attack over one of these, you have an Honest in your hand. So again, like, this is what I'm just trying to say. Very simplistic boards, but very effective. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. That is my take on Trickstar, a different way to play it. Again, we removed the Dragoons package. I know Dragoons was kind of popular in Trickstar. Every build I've been seeing plays the Dragoons, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. It's too reliant on that one play, and if that fails you, you're kind of in a bad position. With this deck, you're in a little bit more of a comfortable position. You play it out, you control the game state, and you just slowly beat down your opponent. But again, if you guys have any suggestions, let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure to check out all my social medias. Brand new card store, link will be in the description as well. Thank you guys for watching. With that, Spanko signing out. Peace.